Welcome to Everlasting Talk. Hello, this is Everlasting Talk. I'm your host, Ever. Before we continue, before we start, I want you to know to check out our merch store at teespring.com. Search for Everlasting Talk. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch, and YouTube at Everlasting Talk. This is the Biography series. Today, we're talking about Caligula. Caligula was had absolute power and took Rome by storm. Crazy story of sex and death, the most infamous emperor in Roman history. 2,000 years later, still talking about his craziness. Born on August 31st, 12 AD, as Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus, was privileged. His father, Germanius, was a military hero. His mother, Aprigina the Elder, who was very, very wealthy. They lived in the Rhine. They gave him the nickname Little Boot or Caligula. That's how he got the name. In Rome, the throne was ruled by Augustus. Uh, he ended up choosing a successor named Tiberius. Um, Forced Caligula's dad to adopt Germanius. On August 14th, 49 AD, Augustus died. Tiber- Tiberius moved against Germanius. Caligula and his family ended up going to modern day Syria, and his father Germanius died mysteriously. No one really knows what happened there. Still to this day, still a mystery. Probably somebody knows what happened. Like there's probably an article out there, a book, or someone discovered it. But from my research, he died. It's still a mystery. Eventually, Tiberius exiled his mom. One brother died of suicide, and the other starved to death in prison. Wow. So Caligula had a rough life as a child. It started off good, but then it started getting rough. He was lucky to be alive, actually. In 31 AD, he was summoned to Capria. Tiberius was a horrible, horrible emperor. Um, he would sleep with boys and girls and order them killed by throwing them off a cliff. And um, he liked people getting tortured. Sorry for the explicit. I should have warned in the beginning. Caligula would keep his mouth shut. Uh, Tiberius allowed him to be in orgies and watch tortures. Caligula actually enjoyed it. He got off on it. He actually got he felt more powerful when he watched it. Eventually, he was caught. He had a co-heir to the empire, who was in his mid 30s, was Gemelius. Sorry if I said that wrong. He would stay up and Caligula would stay up at night, watch Tiberius sleep with a knife in his hand. So he would literally just stalk him with a knife in his hand, ready to kill him. And but he would eventually get stopped by hearing voices. He would hear a voice tell him to stop. On March 16, 37 AD, Tiberius died. There's a theory or a mystery that actually Caligula killed him, but it's not proven. Um, Rome would party the death of Tiberius, and Caligula ordered his co-heir Gemellia to house arrest. So Tiberius was a horrible leader. Obviously, like I mentioned, he tortured people. He did all these very cruel things to men, women, and children. Um, like you said, he showed Caligula tortures and allowed him in orgies, which is very horrible. Um, Eventually, um, Caligula became emperor. People liked him at first. They liked his ideologies and everything he did. He was 24 years old. He was a young guy. He was, he looked strong. He looked nice. But not long after, he would do the same as Tiberius or worse. He was actually, people say he was worse than Tiberius. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like they hated Tiberius because he was so bad, but then Caligula was worse. Caligula was a good leader. He eventually, he would lower taxes. He had feasts and gladiator shows for his people to enjoy. So he treated people right. But in October of that year, he got sick and almost died. People wanted him to live, but people wanted him to live. They prayed for it. They wished the gods that he was going to be okay. They would do whatever it takes for him to live. But eventually, he ended up surviving. He changed. Something about him after he got better. He changed and became sinister beyond belief. He ordered his senators to commit suicide in front of him because they prayed to that he would be okay, that they would take his place if they had to. They would, die for him. So he took them to their word. He took them to their word, and he eventually ended up, telling them to commit suicide. But he had signs before his power that he was sinister. Like I mentioned, he would watch Tiberius sleep with a knife in his hand, ready to kill him. He would watch tortures of other people, and he would, enjoy it. Eventually, He started wearing women's clothing. Um, Women and Romans were getting scared. The Roman people were very scared of that. Just everything he was doing. No accurate account that can be used. He actually made his senators run, and he took their wives and took advantage of them. He married his friend's wife and divorced her the next morning, so she wouldn't ever be able to marry ever again. So, because in Roman society at the time, a woman, if they got divorced, they're kind of like they're not allowed to get married again, or they'd be looked down in society. So he literally married his friend's wife, divorced her the next morning. He had relations with men, young girls, and his sister, Drusilla, until she died in 38 AD. Yeah, his sister, his blood sister. It's crazy. In 38 AD, he ordered the execution of Gemellus, who he issued in house arrest a couple years earlier, and resumed Tiberius trials. Random people got selected and got randomly executed. He was slowly tortured and forced relatives to watch. He said, if you didn't watch your family member getting tortured and killed, you'll be next. So they had to watch their own sons and daughters and cousins and nephews and nieces, as they die. He eventually, after his sister's death, which is his true love of his life, he met Melania and they fell in love. He ended up having a daughter named um, after his sister Drusilla. So he named his daughter Drusilla after his sister, who he had a relationship with. Insane. He decided to eventually conquer, but he couldn't beat anyone. He tried to Germany, no less. He eventually took 200 men. They went to get seashells at the beach and went home, which almost led to a civil war because it was so erratic that this guy would do this, that people were just trying to get rid of him. Eventually, on January 24th, 41 AD, a group surrounded him and stabbed him to death. Stabbed his wife and daughter too. His horse, they say his horse got killed, but we don't know. There's a story. It might not be true. It might be true. Depends who you ask. He named one of his horse. I forgot his horse name. A senator, but there's no proof of that. He only had a 4-year reign, but in that 4-year reign, he left the legacy. Now that we talk about 2,000 years later, if anything, um, I don't. There's a movie called Caligula that came out in 1979. It's pretty graphic. There's a lot of scenes in there with violence and other things. That if you watch it, you should be very, very aware now that it's it's a warning to you not to watch it. And they also showed him up in other movies. He showed up in the Netflix series Roman Empire in the third season in 2019. So yeah, I mean Caligula, take it as it can be. He was infamous because of his actions and his relationships and his eventual rise to power and down to power. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you could check out the series I told you about, the Caligula movie from 1979, or the show Roman Empire season 3, Netflix. But yeah, this is Everlasting Talk. I'm your host, Ever. Thank you for checking out this episode. Make sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. I'll see you at the next one. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everlasting Talk. For more content, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Everlasting Talk. Thank you.